Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real People, Real Health. I am excited to have in this studio this evening Lesa Fox. Welcome to the studio, Lesa Fox. Good to see you.
Hello. Hello. Thank
I
you for having me.
you're welcome, Lesa. What city and state do you call home these days?
Well, I am from, I'll say College Park, Maryland, because that's the nearest city that's well known. So near University of Maryland.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. So you're nowhere near is it Darlene or that's coming in from into the coast of Florida, the hurricane right now?
Well, Dorian is further south, but it is expected to come up our way towards Washington, D.C. I'm hoping it's just going to go out to sea. But who knows? It's rare that it comes up through the Chesapeake Bay towards us. I'm about 20 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. So, but you never know. You just never know around here. So we'll see. I'm
So
praying.
right now you're safe and you're dry and you're in your home.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I want to thank you for coming in the studio this evening. Lesa and I met actually through Jessica Alstrom's team from Quantum Revolution, and we had the opportunity to meet face to face. And I think it was end of March or April back in Las Vegas at the last tour. And so we've kept in touch. We became Facebook friends, and we follow each other.
Yeah.
And through the process, I paid attention to a lot of your posts and gotten to know you indirectly, as many other people do through social media. And at some point in the last month or two, I asked you if and when you'd be ready to come in and share your backstory. I'd love to have you on as a guest. And you responded pretty quickly and said, absolutely, I would love to do that.
Yes.
And in pre-show tonight, we when we did our studio sound check and all, I asked you if you'd ever come and done an interview of sorts of this nature, and you said, this will be my first. I have gone live a few times, of course, to myself, but that in itself is takes a lot of courage because most people don't have the courage to hit go live, and so you've had some training, so
Yeah. A little bit, yes, just a
just
little
a little
bit, but
bit.
I'm excited.
As I shared with you, Lesa, prior to going live, uh, my intention is to set a safe environment, a safe space to create one for you. If at any time a question should pop from within my heart space that you're uncomfortable, you're not ready to answer with love, you can set a loving boundary for me, and I will respect and love you in return. And so this is a safe zone this evening.
Thank you.
Um, you're welcome. I also, before we jump into your story, I would like to invite you to share, if you may. You reached out to me. You created a messenger group about a month and a half or so ago. I'd like you to share with the audience a little bit of the backstory there, what that was about, and and I'd like to just touch on this just a bit before we deep diving into your own story.
Sure. Well, I contacted you about a friend of mine, Michael, that I had met through a coaching company that I was involved with about 5 years ago. And I only knew of Michael briefly and through, a couple every 6 month retreats. We had in past in talking, had known each other, but not really closely. And we became Facebook friends and followed each other on Facebook. And unfortunately, Michael had a tragic accident, but it's been miraculous how far he's come in just really the 2 years that it's been that he's had that. And I just, for some reason or another, there's been this pull between he and I that we've joked and back and forth about some things, and he's understood my trials and tribulations with pain. And so that's where we've connected and resonated the most. So really, I just felt this need after meeting you and seeing your show, and Jay, just the inspiration you've been in your own challenges and quest for healing and cures. And I just felt that there couldn't be a better person for him to talk to. So I really wanted to reach out and put the two of you together. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that I did, because what's transpired since has just been incredible, and nothing short of synchronicity in what happens when you just follow your gut and intuition and reach out to people.
The beautiful thing about the introduction is it's a lesson in life for all of us, because there's many times that we're connected to people or we're introduced and then we don't follow up and follow through. And although you made the introduction about them, I'd have to look back at the date. I think it's at least a month ago, maybe a little longer. Although we connected through text, Michael and I did not truly connect through a video chat.
Okay.
And you actually sent me a message about 48 hours or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, and said, Jay, please reach out to Michael. He is not doing well. He's in trouble.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I put everything down. I reached out to Michael, and the rest is history. Michael and I have connected. We have spoken for hours over the last couple of days. And the beautiful thing is that in this moment, as you and I are live, about to share your story, Michael is right now in treatment at a doctor's office that he didn't even, was not even aware of this type of treatment that may give him enough pain relief to where he's going to be able to just be able to breathe. Exactly. And there's no coincidence that as we are live right now and holding space, we can hold space together for Michael as he's about to have a procedure that hopefully will give him hope to continue to live and do the work that he really wants to do.
Yes. And really, for so many people out there, it is the relief from pain that gives them the ability to move forward and make progress, and whether it's their mindset or moving or whatever. So yes, being able to alleviate that pain is a game changer. It is a life changer.
Well, I made a commitment to Michael. I put myself on the line and I said, Michael, 2020 is a year that you and I are going to be healed. And you and I are going to go on stage together, and you're going to share your story and I'm going to share mine. And we're going to hold hands and arms up in the air. And we're going to say, yes, 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 healed. And, we all have a different perspective on what healed means. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're maybe out of the wheelchair. It doesn't mean that we're 100% out of pain. But I do believe that it's about a mindset. And I think that whether I understood Michael or not, at this point, he's just looking to be out of physical pain. And I think he'd be okay accepting that he may be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. But he's a beautiful man. We have so much in common. He's a June birthday like I am. He's got 3 sons. He had his awakening in a hospital when he knew that he had to literally change everything in his life. And he made a lot of significant decisions while he was still in a hospital, as did I. And so we've got a love fest going, Michael and I, and I'm just I'm grateful that you introduced the two of us together. You trusted your intuition. Your intuition said that we needed to meet, we needed to connect. And you were right, Lesa.
That's incredible to me. And then it's not. I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, I just felt so strongly And I'm glad I acted on it completely in all ways. And I am so thankful and grateful that you did too, because that very well has changed Michael's life for incredible movement forward. Yes. Whew.
Yeah, and there's more to the story that's unfolded, but that's a story that I'm hopeful that Michael will come into the studio with me and share what has unfolded between him and I, and a third party, a fourth party, not because you're the third party, but the fourth party that's actually based in Costa Rica, that actually connected me to this doctor who has a specialized treatment that he does. It's called PIT, and he happens to be just an hour away from where Michael lives in Seattle.
Right.
Another synchronicity. I mean, it's just there's so much to this flow. It's just incredible. But I've got my seatbelt on, and it's been buckled now for 3 days, and I'm not letting go. I'm holding on tightly because we're gonna get Michael through this moment. But in any event, I'd like to switch gears right now, Lesa, and invite you to share where you're comfortable, where you'd like to come in and share where how it all began for you.
Ooh, well, okay. I know I was born an empath, a real feeler. I've always been a very sensitive girl. So to start out my simple story is I was born to a 16-year-old girl and a father who went off to Vietnam. So I was raised by children, basically children raising children. Moving forward in my story, when my father returned, he brought a lot of drugs into the family, and really that's all I've known since I was a very young girl is drug addiction, drug use, keep quiet, always not taken care of. To a degree, I learned from a very young age to really take care of myself. Although I did have adults to fall back on, it really was me, myself, and I for most of my life. So that really encouraged an incredible imagination. I found myself playing school teacher and playing with my animals and things of that nature as a young girl. Mostly staying in the house because I wasn't allowed out until parents were home. So it was one of these when I started school that I got up to an empty house, walked myself to school, went to school, walked home to an empty house and stayed and entertained myself until my parents got home. And they were usually too tired to deal with anything anyway. And then I usually went to grandma and grandpa's, and certainly my mother, like I said, wanted to escape her family household, which was my grandfather was an alcoholic and my grandmother was a codependent with him, but they adored me. And in all honesty, they became my escape, if you will, my sacred space, even though I had to deal with addiction, alcoholism in a very real way. Which as a very young girl, how do you process things like this? All I wanted to do was run around like a little loving empath and sensitive and just, can't everyone get along? And can't we all just love each other? And why isn't anyone loving me? And I learned to be the people pleaser and love everybody else. And then later in my life, there's been molestation that occurred as a young girl under 10. And then later, as I got older, I was more and more involved in seeing what my parents were doing with drugs. And then later they opened their own business and I started working for them as well, which got me my start as an entrepreneur in some ways or another. Interestingly enough, in this storyline, that's when my dad introduced that he was going into business selling crack cocaine, basically. That's a heck of a story. But he actually sat me down and talked to me about use and abuse while I had 6 kilos of cocaine sitting on my bed. And I actually took that conversation very much to heart. So I'll say that I was a good addict and that I was very responsible, but to say that I didn't get involved in drugs at that point and moving forward, that is exactly what happened. Going to work, need a little kicker, got a lot done. My parents were actually doing all the silk screening t-shirts for Washington, D.C., all the souvenir t-shirts in that time frame in the 80s. So we were running a 6-color press 24/7. And that's what we did. And that was my foundation of my life. And moving forward in adulthood, the patterns, the trauma, looking for love, people pleasing, working myself to death, trying to make something of myself, trying to prove myself, stressed beyond unbelievable, but acting like I had it all together. Always the happy face, always the person that would listen to people. And I was always the person that people came and actually talked to. I'm always very easygoing, and for some reason or another, everyone always spilled their guts to me, and I was a great listener. But I didn't really understand that I was an empath, that I was sensitive, and I also had no idea what to do with all these feelings that I always felt. I had no idea that they weren't mine. I thought they were mine. So looking back, I see, or I feel all these nudges, and I kind of feel like I ran away from them. The drugs were a way to self-medicate and to numb the pain, for sure. That became the whole thing. And then I quit, of course, eventually. And then I got pregnant with my son, and life changed, became different, but I was still a workaholic. I was still working myself to death. I was in a marriage that wasn't good. I was raising a son, going to school, working a job, making great money, but I mean, burning the candle at both ends, and ended up in the hospital with a severe case of a rare bacterial pneumonia. I literally almost died. They carried me out of my corporate office on a stretcher after I finished my filing. When I think back how ludicrous it was that I literally pushed myself to get something done for a corporate office, to get their filing done, their quarterly filing done. And I was carried out on a stretcher to the hospital and literally almost died. My oxygen level, I mean, it was awful. 3 weeks in the hospital. About 4 months part-time before 3 months before I went back to work, 3 months part-time work, but I went back to work. That's the crazy thing. I went back to work and kind of started the cycle over again. And, but it ended up leaving my husband because that was just baggage that was not doing me service. He wasn't helping out for me. He wasn't helping in the way that I needed him to. It was just a tumultuous, triggered, there was crap on both sides, let's put it that way. And I just didn't want to expose my son to a marriage that wasn't that way. So I decided to leave. And
how old was your son? How old was your son when you left the marriage?
He was about, I want to say 3.5. And I basically,
It took a lot of courage for you to do that.
Oh yeah. I left out. I actually went to St. Lucia for a week by myself. I took a little vacay self-care. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I just said, look, I have to make a decision. I told my husband, I said, look, I have things to talk about and I can't do it under the pressure of work and you and everything else. So if you want any savior of this marriage or you want honesty, you got to let me go. So I went for a week and I came back deciding I had to leave the marriage. There was no doubt about it. So I did. And I gave him everything. I said, take it all. You can have the house, you can have everything. I want half custody of my son and my personal belongings, and I'm leaving. Because I had a good job and I could. I had my grandmother at that time, my grandfather was already dead by that time. And she had been watching my son since birth. It had given her life. So that was a beautiful thing. I had a good support system at the time for that, and got out of it. Yeah. Yes. And went into an incredibly terrible, severe depression. And thankfully was friends with some good people who got me help. And thankfully, I chose to live over my son because it was really that bad. It was, after you make incredible decisions and you step up in your power, sometimes you have incredible remorse and you wonder if you've made the right decisions and you have doubts. And that's pretty much, I think, what happened. That and maybe just total release. Maybe from everything that was going on. I don't know, but somehow I had the support system through friends and the wherewithal to get help, and they put me on medication first.
Medication for
depression. So I was put on Prozac.
Okay.
Yeah. And that at first I thought that just was going to change my life. That and talk therapy. I did great for a year. And then I don't know, I started weaning off of that, and then it didn't feel like my psychiatrist didn't think like I needed any more therapy. So we moved on, and I moved on, and then slowly moved into another.
What is, hold on, if I may. What does that mean? I moved on. Does that mean that you no longer do therapy, but you stayed on a Prozac?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, I felt like the talk therapy was going well enough, like myself intuitively, I felt like, okay, I understand what this is all for, but I really feel better. And I really started weaning myself off the Prozac myself as I was going through talk therapy. So really it came to a point where she said, you know what? You're good. I really don't see the need to go on, but we really need to, wean you off the Prozac. And I was like, I'm good. I've been weaning myself off the Prozac for the last 8 weeks. So see you later. And that's what I mean by move along.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So I did, but again, I was still working a corporate job through this whole thing. So I was getting steady paychecks. I was still working the hustle. I was still going to a full-time job and then I had the time to myself to take care of myself. And then of course my husband had my son part of the time. So that gave me a little bit of breathing room, but that changed very quickly down the road where, no child support, no support whatsoever. And yeah, but that happens. And so we move on and we keep moving forward with that. But there's another stressor in a sense. And I also got involved in a new relationship, which was different from anything I had ever experienced before. But looking back, that was kind of crazy too. But I'm still married to my husband 23 years later. I can say that. And along the way, we've owned businesses together. I left corporate. I became an esthetician. That was because who I was working for was being bought out by another company, and I decided they were not going to make a decision for me as to who I was going to work for or a position I was going to get. So I said, I'm going to go do what I've always wanted to do, which was to become an esthetician. An esthetician, which is a person who does facials and makeup and things of that sort. So I was kind of spurned to go off and change careers. So I did. And I don't know how I did it, but I did it, and became an esthetician, and then hated it in the spa community. So I decided to become a medical esthetician. And so then I became working for dermatologists and plastic surgeons. And so then I got excited about starting a practice, and then I went gung-ho to doing that. And I certainly soon got a quick clientele where I was booked full, because hands-on and touching and touch therapy and kind of coaching therapy that I was good at that already. But again, little did I know that I was giving away my energy on a daily basis, day in and day out. And as the doctor asked me to open a medical spa for them, I said, well, of course I can do it, even though I felt like absolute crap and I had no energy whatsoever. And I did it, and soon had a staff of 4 people and a medical spa to run. And then I didn't feel respected.
You sound tired. Just in
Well, when
this
I think
moment,
about it, it's kind of tiring. I need to.
the beautiful thing though, Lesa, is that you're laughing right now.
Well, I see the irony now. In the absolute ludicrous, the craziness of what we do to keep things going, to keep the machine turning, as you get in debt and as you get more money and as you buy more things and you have this and that. I mean, you just add more and more to your plate. And one day you find yourself going, what in the heck is going on? My husband in the meantime had gotten to another business, and I decided, well, I'm really feeling like crap. And in the meantime, I'd been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I'm sorry. In the meantime, I had been actually diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I still said, sure, we can open a medical spa. Why not? And just with a little help of your friends, with his pharmaceutical painkillers, which my doctor was compassionate enough to give to me because I had to work. Come hell or high water, I had to work. So eventually, my husband created his own business and said, look, why don't you have a little more flexibility? Come work for me, us together. Why not? That sounds great. So I left my career and then decided to go into business with my husband, which sounded amazing at the time, and the flexibility, because now I could sleep in late. I didn't have to spend an hour in traffic one way morning and the evening each way, plus a 9-hour workday. So, do the math after a while. But who are you kidding? When you work for yourself, you become the jack of all trades, and you actually work harder than you ever work for anyone else. But it's different. You find ways, but no, those 10 years of self-employment in a business are a blur. I don't know how my husband and I survived the marriage. We've gone through years of therapy. My son was working for us too. It was a family affair. And let me tell you what, Jay, we could have put the Aussie show, the Osbournes, the reality show.
Mm-hmm.
We could have given them a run for their money. Let me tell you what, we really could have capitalized on it. But nonetheless, there became a breaking point where enough of the business, enough of the relationship problems, enough of everything, and we closed the business. My husband went his way. I actually took the clothing. We had a Costco salvage business is what we actually did. And we were only open on the weekends. We had a huge following. So I kept all the clothes and I sold on eBay for a period of time. And in between that time, I became involved in a coaching company, and I was also involved with a network marketing company. So those two things right there really started to change my life. Becoming a coach changed my life because I had to get real with my crap, my all the shiitake and what are you talking about? I don't have a problem. What are you talking about? Everything's fine. No. So I did the work, and yeah, that was the beginning of it. But that time there was also very superficial work. The real work came much later. The beginning of it came through injury. I first broke my metatarsal in my foot, and it never really healed. I had a boot on for 8 months, and then I had to switch it to another foot, and then it never healed. And they just said, you just have swelling. It just never healed. So, all this time that I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I don't know. I question whether or not it could have been more than that over time. But I'll never really know for sure. What really changed was an encounter with a best friend that I had from the time when I was a teenager. And, but she had disappeared out of my life. And somehow we made contact again, and I decided to meet her. She was like, I have things to tell you, but I really don't want to talk to you on the phone. And I was like, okay. And basically I agreed to meet her, and ironically I ended up going down after a hurricane trip to see her. And to make a long story short and not get into all the nitty-ditty details, I found out that not only my dad had raped me, but he had also raped my best friend at the time. And not only had he raped her, but he had kept a year-long relationship going on with her at the time. And then I later found out that my mother had known all along. And that kind of sent me into a major tailspin in my life. It was a piece of a puzzle void that I had felt was there for decades, but I never knew, like when you just feel like you know something, but you don't know something, but you know something, but you just can't. Yeah. And it was not pretty. And I had to remove myself from her premises because it was a Jekyll Hyde situation. And I don't think she had dealt with it. And neither had I. And then accused me that I had known. And I was like, oh, well, did you know that I was raped? And she said, no. And I said, well, I didn't know either. So, but it was a terrible thing. So I actually left and checked myself in about 20 miles away and ended up coaching people after a hurricane. That's where I found my solace to deal with a situation immediately. That's what
When you said you checked yourself in, where did you check yourself into?
I drove across to the coastline of Florida into a beach resort. This was still a week after a hurricane had hit it. This was near
Okay.
Fort Myers after Marcos Island, the last hurricane. It was a
Yep.
category 4. I was down there like 3 days after. Anyway, I decided to check myself into the resort. They were open, and there were some people there, and it was interesting. Ironically, I found solace talking to other people and coaching them through what they just went through. And I decided to stay for the remainder of the 2 days before I went home because I wasn't sure how this was all going to play out at home, and it didn't play out well at home. All hell broke loose in my whole family. Everything just fell apart. it was the beginning of craziness. And about that time, right before that, I was starting to have problems with my knees. And not long after that, my knees were swollen to the point that they were like small cantaloupes. And my feet were swollen as well. And I could not walk unassisted whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the current doctor I was going through, they were like, well, we don't know what's going on. But somehow in my mind, somehow the word rheumatoid arthritis kept coming up in my head. I made an appointment with a rheumatologist and went, and sure enough, they went through all the work and said, you have a severe case of rheumatoid arthritis, along with everything else going on with you. And so this is what you have to do. You have to go on this medication and do bi-weekly blood tests and take a flu vaccine and do 2 extra vaccines and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, no, 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 no. What can we do other than that? Well, Ms. Fox, no, I'm not doing something that's going to require vaccines and this, that, and the other, because knowing as sensitive as my body was and being a health advocate for myself for the last 15 years in fibromyalgia, no. So, I started on the small way, the smallest way, and said, there's got to be a better way. That was the beginning journey push. Yeah.
Where do you think the no came from? I know what you just said, that you had gone through a decade and a half of a diagnosis.
Yeah. I've kind of left along the way, I've left out these really odd medical things that have occurred, besides having the rare bacterial pneumonia. I had food poisoning that almost killed me and was in the hospital for 3 weeks. When I was younger, I had scarlatina and they gave me penicillin and my joints swelled up and turned red and purple rashy. They said I was allergic to penicillin and had scarlatina. I never took penicillin again and never had that problem. However, anytime I've ever taken any type of other antibiotic, I would break out into a yeast infection all over my body. This really strange thing. Yeah.
Okay. So you had prior experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had these strange things that have finally, one doctor, these little blister type things that would come out on my body anytime I've had an injury or a lot of stress along with the injury. And they said it looked like shingles, interestingly enough, but I've never had that full blown. But it's interesting that they've just been these little things. So I've had these very oddball. As a young child, I constantly had throat problems, ear infections, canker sores, things like that. But that changed after I got pregnant. I never had ear infections anymore, and I never got canker sores anymore. I never got anything like that. But later on, I got the fibromyalgia and the other types of things. So it's been
once you had the diagnosis for rheumatoid arthritis and you said no, 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 what did you say yes to?
I was saying yes to myself and to my own health and taking charge of my own health. That was the first time that I told a doctor no. That was the first time that I said, you know what? There's got to be a better way. And, I would talk to her about alternatives and she said, no, 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 I can't do that. And I said, well, then I don't want to work with someone who's not willing to work with me both ways. And then she started, they talk about malpractice and but it was no, I am going to, for once in my life, say no. There's got to be a better way. And I just felt there was a better way. I just knew there was a better way.
So how'd you get busy? What changed from that day forward for you? How did you approach it on your own as your own advocate?
Well, I can't say it went really well for in the beginning. I was doing research and again, coming to the conclusion that it was diet, and I was trying to do a lot of things on my own. And I was trying to do a lot of things on my own. And really, I think it's great to try and do things on your own, but the big switch was when I decided to reach out to other people and say, hey, can you help me out here? Because I'm at my wit's end. And that really came probably earlier this year, the beginning of this year, where I came to my wit's end and I started reaching out and reaching out to different other people. So it started with books again, rereading books, changing the mindset. What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? What are you watching? Are you shutting the TV off? What kind of music are you listening to? What are the words that you're hearing? And all of this started to culminate. And then QRT with Jessica Alstrom was actually a huge springboard for me, to be honest with you, as far as changing mindset goes. That became a huge springboard for me. And from there, it has been a trajectory upwards of just changing the energy, changing everything.
How do you feel from the physical perspective of RA?
Um, oh, well, I will tell you that I heal a heck of a lot quicker than I used to. 3 weeks ago, I fell flat on my face without bracing myself, forehead first, blood everywhere. That would have put me out for at least a week or two with bedridden, feeling like crap. And I healed within 3 days.
Beautiful.
3 days. Not only my
Beautiful.
skin, but my body. And that's because I started talking to my body. That has been a big part of my healing, is actually talking to my body and my cells and telling them what to do.
What, what does that sound like? Can you give me an example?
In the morning, when I get out of bed, I prop myself up and I take deep breaths and I tell myself that I'm full of energy, that I have plenty of energy to get through my day, that no matter what comes along my way, I will find a solution. And I try to envision myself within my imagination that I've been really good at doing. And I literally talk to them and they talk back to me like a little smiley face on cells. And I just say, today you're going to replicate normally and you're going to continue to heal and create normal cells that are going to heal me. And you're going to create more energy for me to do what I need to do.
Beautiful.
And to help other people. And that's pretty much how I start my intention of my day.
Tell me a little bit about if you've experimented with nutrition at all, and
Yes.
where do you think you are in a spectrum as far as far left or far right or somewhere in the middle, and how in fact has that impacted your healing?
Oh, nutrition has absolutely impacted my healing tenfold. Nutrition is everything. And I'm finding that healing the gut is the first journey towards healing disease, a lot of autoimmune diseases. So for me personally, yes, nutrition. I've cut back on my meats. I've increased my fruits and vegetables. I don't have gluten. I'm more or less sugar-free. I do have a treat once in a while because I don't believe in complete abstinence. You've got to let yourself have some type of pleasure here and there. And the funny thing is, when I eat it, I tell myself it's not going to affect me, and it doesn't. I just don't make it a regular habit. I drink lots of water. I add all kinds of nutrients, essential oils to my daily routine. I've cut out chemicals in my daily skincare and household. That has been a huge thing, is going toxic free, detoxing the body, going chemical free, ridding the house of these things. Using essential oils has been a huge part of that, to make natural process. There's just been
Wow,
so
Lesa,
much.
Lesa, what more can you do? You're really doing it.
Yes,
You touched on
meditation,
so many things.
energy work. There's just so much. Getting moving, getting yourself moving. And that's the biggest thing. I was in so much fear of moving and hurting my knee, because that was a problem with my knee swelling. And I had like the 40 cc's of fluid removed from it. And I said, no more. This is not going to happen again. And you know what? A friend of mine that was kind enough to get me in a mind body thing really got me saying, let's get moving. And I did it without fear, and I started walking. And the next thing you know, I was walking 30 minutes and nothing happened to my knee. Oh, yes. So movement is huge. I know with pain, we want to sit there. We don't want to move, and it hurts so bad. But I'm like, you know what? It hurts worse to sit here and do nothing. And that is what spurred me forward, is if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out doing something, and I'm going to do it hard.
How has moving impacted your emotional state?
Well, it has let go of a lot of emotions too, I can tell you that. I cry a lot, but I also have a fantastic soundtrack that gets me through and pushes me that, yes, when I hear those words of, I am a champion, or I am strong, I am awesome, I'm amazing, I've got courage, I'm courageous, I am a warrior. I mean, you got to find that stuff, and you have to, get those affirmations and plaster them all over your damn house. I mean, you got to be a warrior. It is a fight, but it's not a fight in the same way you think it is.
Okay, Lesa, let me ask you this today.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are a survivor, or are you a thriver?
I'm a thriver. I don't. I mean, there's a certain meaning in surviving, and though I've survived, I don't look as myself as a victim survivor. I am a freaking thriver. I am just a thriver.
Yes.
Thriver.
Yes.
Thriver.
Yes.
Thriver.
Yes.
Thriver. Thriver. Yes.
That's what I'm talking about, girl.
Yeah. And
that's how we have to do it.
That is how
we have a choice.
To do
it. It's a choice.
It is a choice.
And when we push through that fear and the pain, yes, we come out on the other side, and we raise our arms up just like that, and we sing ourselves through the pain every single day, right? Yes. Look at that freaking bicep there, girl. And I wouldn't want to meet you in that dark alley, I'll tell you that.
Can I tell you something? I haven't lifted
Please do.
one weight. Not one. Not one.
Nor have I.
Not one.
How do you do it? How'd you get that definition? You don't know?
Moving.
You were born naturally?
Moving.
There you go.
Just freaking moving, baby.
Beautiful.
Just
wow.
Moving. And then that once you start moving, you start doing things, and you work through the pain, and
yes,
you just work through the pain. Am I free of pain? Hell no, I am not. But I work through it, because I'm stronger than that. And I'm not here for no reason. And I'm not here to lollygag on a couch. And I know how it feels to go through that. But no, baby, I am on the trajectory upwards. And that's where I'm going. There's no going back anymore. I can't, because if I do, that's not a path I want to go anymore, and one I won't. So it's forward, and you have to keep going every single day. And it's baby
Beautiful.
steps. That doesn't mean you don't take a rest. It doesn't mean you don't honor yourself when you're tired and you take that moment. Okay. It doesn't mean you
Absolutely.
have to be gung-ho every single day. You can honor yourself in other ways. And that's the other part of the journey, is honoring yourself too. You can't be in this mode all the time. It doesn't work that way. But it sure feels good when you do.
What does honoring yourself feel like today? Well, how do you do that?
For me, honoring myself is staying in bed if I feel like it, and reading a book or watching a movie or cuddling up with my cat or getting a massage or treating myself to a small little thing of ice cream, or you know, taking a bath, or going on a boat ride, or going and helping other people, or sitting and meditating, or going for a walk. Just honoring whatever feels good in the moment to you.
Beautiful. I
Uh,
love that, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
You're not going to believe it. We are 6 minutes from the hour, and so I want to keep us moving in flow. I'd like to touch on something that is really pressing on me right now, which is, where are you in the process of forgiveness towards your family, towards your dad, towards your mom,
Mm.
and others that have touched you in a very, very, very profound way?
Forgiveness is a very interesting word, and it comes with different ways of approaching it. Um, we can find peace within ourselves, where forgiveness for me is, I know the backstory to both my parents and my grandparents. I know the backstory of what happened to them. I know the trauma in their lives that went unresolved and went unhealed, that was self-medicated and never dealt with in a healthy, functional way. So my forgiveness is to have compassion that they are human beings that had their own backstory of trauma. It does not forgive them for what happened to me, but it allows me to be human and have compassion for them. However, I have very strong boundaries set at this time in my life, since it's only been a few years. Right now, I have very strong boundaries where I'm not ready for a relationship, but I can forgive as a human being compassionately for their own story as to why things did happen the way they did. It never makes it right. It never justifies it in any way, shape, or form. It's my responsibility to move forward in my story and journey. It's not my responsibility to heal them or to be involved in their healing. So that's where
Beautiful.
I sit with that.
Lesa, I want to just take a moment to truly honor you and thank you for showing up tonight because um,
Thank you.
it's not easy. It really, it's simple, not easy to have the courage to step into the studio and have this type of conversation, even on your best days. It's difficult. You touched on a lot of parts of your life today, this evening, that caused that actually impacted your life, that brought you trauma and deep wounds. And so I acknowledge you. I thank you for sharing that, for sharing, opening up with myself as well as those that are supporting you and holding space in our Facebook community that are watching us on live or replay. I do want to ask you about you talked about forgiveness, and I love what you just shared. It's just beautiful. You
Thank
talked about compassion for your parents. Where does acceptance fall into?
Well, I guess there is acceptance with that compassion, I guess. When I say that, for me, there is, when I'm compassionate, I'm accepting of whatever the situation is. So for me, I'm accepting of this is the way it is. This is the situation. This has been your journey. These have been the players. And, you know, ironically, I've played out my story throughout my adulthood with different people, places, and things, but basically the foundation of my life with the first original players, actors in the play. That took me a long time to realize too, that while I had gotten rid of certain things, I really just replaced them with the same doggone thing.
Yeah, yeah. A lot. It's a different form of a distraction.
Exactly.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
know how to juggle it. You know, I used to say if I was paid to juggle balls, I could have made a lot of money in a circus.
Absolutely. Oh boy, that is for sure. Absolutely. So
Yeah,
acceptance does
yeah.
come with that. I have to accept this. These are the way things are. My parents are who they are. My grandparents were who they are. Whoever in my life was who they are. I am who I am. And
Boom.
I can change who I am and how I deal with who I am and how I deal with life and moving forward. And that's my journey. And
So, if I may paraphrase you, Lesa, what I just heard you say is that those things that happened, those moments, those pivotal moments that impacted your life,
mhm,
they happened, but they do not define the beautiful woman that you are today.
no, they
They no
absolutely
longer, you don't have to own them anymore. They're not yours. They are just
no.
experiences that happen.
That's correct. You can change your reaction to your emotions, to your memories. You don't lose your memories, but you can change how you react to your memories emotionally. You eventually can let that go, where you can kind of talk nonchalantly about your life and not break down every time you talk about something that was very painful. It doesn't mean it's not there vividly. um, there's kind of a veil on it now. It isn't so vivid. I guess that's not a great word. It isn't as vivid as it used to be, but and the emotions don't impact me. And I have come to the conclusion that nobody has power over you. No one. Only you have power over you. And that is what I've learned. And that is how you change. And that is how I've changed. That only I can do it. And only I have the power to do it. And you've been such an incredible inspiration, Jay. I cannot tell you enough what an inspiration you have been to me. Meeting you, talking to you, and seeing your show and your coaching and what you do and what you're facing You know, I mean, we take back our shit when we learn of other people's. And it's not to diminish anyone's, but this is why stories are so freaking important. Because, yeah, we can learn that our stuff isn't that bad, or maybe it is, it doesn't matter. You know, we all are in different healing in different places at different times, but you have just been an absolute incredible inspiration to me, and you have been part of the reason I have been on my trajectory. So for that, I thank you, sir, for who you are and what you do on a regular basis.
Well, you got me, girl. Thank
I
you.
love you, Jay.
Thank you, Lisa. I will say this to you is that when we show up and do the work that we do, whatever that work is,
Yeah.
we don't always know whose life we're touching. And most of the time, I don't know until I receive a private message or someone like you expresses what you just did. And the beautiful thing about it is I know how to receive it today in the heart space and not in the ego space, because it wasn't just a couple of 24 hours ago, like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 9, 10 years. For 54 years of my life, I couldn't accept a compliment like that without it going to ego. And today I'm able to receive it and accept it in a heart space. So it brings me to tears, and it feels good. And so thank you for that. And I will accept those words with dignity and grace this evening. So with what time we do have left, as I do want to respect, it's after 10, it's 10:04 your time now. I would like to invite you, Lesa Fox, to perhaps share some closing thoughts, perhaps maybe something that somebody listening needs to hear you say that may in fact impact and change the trajectory of their own life or their own healing journey.
Wow, in a short period of time, huh? Okay, well, if I were to give a message to everybody out there, I would tell you, don't give up. You know deep in your heart and soul that there's something that's pushing you, that's guiding you. And if you're even here listening tonight and you showed up, you're here for a reason. You're here to listen. You might hear it in a movie, a magazine. You might hear it from a friend, an associate, somebody at a store worker, your cashier. It might be on a license plate, a bumper sticker somewhere. You're going to see synchronicities everywhere when you set your mind on making a decision and a choice. And when you make a decision and a choice to make it about you, about yourself, about what you're going to do for you to fill your cup, to heal your cup, that's when everything will change, because it's nobody else. It's not our husbands or fathers. It's not our parents, our kids. It's not our friends, our mothers. It's us. It's us that needs to look in the mirror, and it's us that needs to say, we need to do the work, and we're worth the work. We're deserving of the work. We all have value and worth, everyone. And if you just reach out to people and ask for help, you just might be surprised that they might help you. And you just might find that by accepting and receiving that love and support, you just might heal and get better. And your entire world will just change in an instant. Because the minute you change, everything around you changes. And that's my message. Keep going. Don't give up. There is a solution somewhere. And just like Jay and I spoke about with our friend Michael, who is ready to give up, who literally is at his wit's end in pain. Just a simple I'm going to act on this, and reaching out to someone and say, look, just if there's something you can do, please. There's people out there that are willing to help. Don't be afraid to ask for it, no matter how it comes out. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable. And don't be afraid to be honest with yourself. Because all of those things changed my life for the better. And taking an active participation in all of it, and investing in myself, investing in yourself. You're worth every penny. Stop thinking about everybody else or things that you want. How about investing in you? Invest in your health and in you and in what you need to get better, because you're worth every penny.
Thank you, Lesa.
Thank you.
I can't say much that's going to top those words. But what I will ask of you is, how do you feel as we about to close out the show right now, compared to when you first stepped into the studio? We take a moment just to get in touch with how you're feeling emotionally, mentally, and physically, and share.
While I feel a little emotional, which is to be normal for me, I actually feel really calm, and I can't believe I got through this whole interview without breaking down or losing thought, or all the little fears that I think are going to happen or thought were going to happen didn't. So yay me. Yay us.
Beautiful.
And I feel really good right now. I'm at peace. I really am at peace. I don't feel uptight or anything. I feel at peace.
Beautiful. Well, coming into the studio is part of the healing journey. Uh, it may take a day or two, but you're going to allow yourself, like you said earlier, give yourself permission to just take care of yourself. Uh, get extra rest, drink extra water, be extra loving and kind to yourself, because there's something that happens when we go back and we share part of our backstory. We're back in it in the moment, as you were earlier in the show. So be kind and loving to yourself, honor yourself, as you said, and know on the backside, in the next couple of days, you're going to feel like you lost probably about 5 to 7 pounds. You're going to have shred and released a lot more healthy and unhealthy toxins that will continue to allow you to continue to heal.
Yes.
And just keep moving. And with that, I'd like to invite those of you that are watching us, if you have your own story that you feel you're ready to step into the studio and share, please reach out to me on a private message, and we'll see what we can do to get you scheduled in on a show in the future. In this moment, Lesa Fox, thank you so much for joining myself in this incredible conversation of inspiration, of hope, of truth, of vulnerability, and of honesty. I honor you. I love you in this moment. Thank you so much for joining us on Real People, Real Health. We'll catch you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.